Here we go, GloucesterCast 303. It is October 21st, 2018. 8 days for my birthday.
Yes.
Everybody have their presents ready?
8 days away.
I thought yesterday was your birthday.
No, we celebrated it yesterday, and we're celebrating November 3rd. We're going to Palana, remember?
Palana, that's right. Yeah.
Where's Palana?
In Danvers.
In Danvers.
You don't know what Palana is?
No. Is it really amazing?
It's Palana is a big city style steakhouse like Morton's Grill 23, but on the North Shore.
Oh, wow.
Like the same.
Same
You do not have to go into Boston to get a Morton style dinner and service because it's that good. Would you agree with me? Is that? I mean, how else would you sum that up?
You summed it up very nicely. I have nothing more to add, Joe.
Oh, there you go.
Do you have to make a reservation well in advance?
No, not necessarily. Not like Duckworth.
No,
but it does make sense as far in advance as possible.
If you're celebrating something.
Yeah.
And it's right next to where IHOP. IHOP was or was
Was
still there?
Well, no. It's not there.
You know what? In between the two malls, the North Shore Shopping Center.
Yeah.
You know how
Somewhere
there's
around
that.
There. All those conglomerations.
Bagel
You know
World.
that the Bagel World
Bagel
is
World.
the gas station.
Yes, I know the gas station.
The pet store.
So you don't remember IHOP, the big A-frame kind of iconic? Where did you move here from? And when did you move here?
Back in 1993. Alex was born in '93,
No, it was still there
so
then.
it's like.
Yeah, it was definitely
94.
there. Yeah. I don't know. All right.
I don't know. I never went, so.
That's interesting. IHOP, I think everybody around. I mean, that's kind of iconic to go to IHOP.
You went there as a kid, not as an adult, right?
True.
So.
Tiger Woods likes it there too.
Yeah, that's a spot.
That's a spot.
All right, I didn't know.
He was dating a few women from my hub.
Oh, that's right. He's pounding them. All right, we're gonna go around and we're gonna go around. We're gonna introduce everybody. Chris McCarthy is here.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you again.
Pat Dalpiaz is here.
Good to talk to you.
We have John O'Rourke here from Good Energy. He's going to speak about the new electricity aggregation, community electricity aggregation program that Gloucester is signing in with. Chris Bryan is going to talk about Mom's Kitchen.
Good morning.
I didn't allow John to say hi to the folks.
Well, hi. I'm glad to be here.
Thank
I
you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you
Captain Joe.
Thank you for coming. I'm not a captain, by the way. My grandfather was a captain.
Oh, okay.
I don't own a boat, and it's actually embarrassing for me to think my lobstermen. If I went around calling myself Captain Joe, it would be they would just absolutely shit all over me relentlessly, right? Am I right, Chris? To try to pass myself off as a captain would be right.
Then you just go by Joey, is that it?
Joey.
Do the lobstermen know that you have Captain Joe tattooed on your ass? I think you should come clean.
Only a select few. Only my favorite ones. Kim Smith is with us.
Good morning, Gloucester.
Fresh off her Kim Smith on BBC, her debut on the BBC channel.
BBC. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, her butterfly thing was on BBC.
Yeah.
On BBC. Yeah.
So first things first. This past week, everybody in town got a mailer, and the mailer was about the community electricity aggregation program that the city signed in with, and first off, I got to say, I think this is a great opportunity for people to save a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak to the risk or not. I'm going to let John speak to the risk or not.
Well,
but I'm going to say that I have done this.
Yeah, you're somewhat of an expert on this because you've been doing it for the last 5 years, right?
I've done it for more than 5. My business has done it with a couple of different electricity suppliers, and I've done it at 2 or 3 of my. I've renewed 3 contracts and saved money on every one of my contracts that I have done with other companies. I did not know that there was that city-sponsored programs that were happening, but it makes sense to me. John, why don't you go ahead and explain what it's all about in the simplest of terms, so that people can get a grasp on what it is without freaking out.
Again, thank you, Joey, for allowing us to be here to speak and to reach out to the residents of Gloucester. A little bit about Good Energy. We're a national company. We're the leader in what's known as municipal aggregation. nationally as well as here in Massachusetts. We have 35 aggregations here in Massachusetts, all of which have saved money. Essentially, there are a number of purposes to aggregation. Nationally, we have 218 aggregations. Essentially, we have the two largest in the country. Okay, one here in Massachusetts, which is on the southeast coast. We started talking to the city of Gloucester through the Clean Energy Commission back in 2015, and we've been developing a plan with them since then. Right now in Massachusetts, there are 122 communities that have aggregation plans that have been approved by the Department of Public Utilities. Okay, nothing happens until the plan goes through both the Department of Energy Resources and the Department of Public Utilities. Okay, so it's not like the city's doing this on their own. It's guided through these two state departments, very carefully reviewed and very carefully vetted. And again, we started this 3 years ago. I'm not sure whether you know this, but both Boston and Worcester recently did requests for qualifications to move forward with community electricity aggregation, the two largest communities in the Commonwealth. Again, it's very important that these plans are vetted through the Department of Public Utilities, and the motivation for the mayor and the city council, and certainly the Clean Energy Commission, was to basically save the residents of Gloucester money, to put more green energy or renewable energy into the mix, to give them more competitive choice, and to stop all of the calls and the letters that come from marketers of electricity that may not be the most scrupulous people. Okay, so that's essentially the way the plan works. I know, Joey, you have some questions for me that I'd love to answer.
Okay. Well, one of the questions is, so I'd like you to explain to people that there are choices other than National Grid suppliers, right?
Yes.
So explain to people that how you can buy if you go with this plan and it's not through National Grid, you are not lower. If you have a problem with your electricity, you're still going to get service, and you're not going to be pushed down on the list of who gets service first.
Okay. Since 1997, the deregulation of the electricity industry, the average citizen, the average resident, could go out and find their own supply. They don't have to go through either of the utilities here in Massachusetts. You have National Grid or Eversource. Right now, National Grid, those customers on the basic service of National Grid, is basically seen by the Department of Public Utilities as the supply of last resort. Okay, everybody can go out for their own supply, and normally within each municipality you have between 10 and 15% of the people that have already done that. So you have about 85% of the residents that haven't done that. They've just stayed with the local utility. It's more advantageous in most cases to go out and find your own supply, and certainly in a situation like ours, where we take the whole load of a municipality and go out to bid, it's very advantageous. What happens today is that National Grid continues to service the account. They service the infrastructure. They do the billing. The only thing that changes is where the supply comes from. The only thing that changes on the bill you get from Eversource is the name of the supplier. Okay, everything else remains the same.
So a person would still get a bill from National Grid.
That's correct.
Okay, I
Yes,
see.
they get the bill from National Grid. The only thing that changes on that bill is that under supply services, the name of the supplier.
Okay.
Well, there's one other thing that changes too.
The cost.
The number.
Well, okay, I'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
You know, if you have an outage, you call National Grid. If you have any other problems, you call National Grid. They continue to service the infrastructure, and the only thing they're really interested in is the transmission and distribution of the electricity. They make no money on the supply anymore.
Okay.
It's just on the distribution. So they don't care where the supply comes from.
They don't care.
Okay.
Oh,
And
that's great
and
to know.
you know, there are people who think, well, if I come off of that with National Grid, when it comes to service, they're going to put me lower on the list.
Right.
Not
No,
true.
not
Right.
true.
Okay? They have no interest in where the supply comes from. They're going to service the account just the way
No
they
matter what.
always
Right.
would.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, that's great to know.
So that's very important because there are some people who are worried about that.
Well, I was worried about that.
Yeah.
I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, in the past week, these are
Yeah.
these are the questions that uninformed people,
Right.
and not that they're bad people or anything
Right.
like that. It's just that they haven't done their homework. They don't know,
Right.
and so that's what we're talking about right here.
Right,
But
not
can you-
not having had a chance to research it or look into it. That was my first thought. Like, oh, what's going
Right.
to happen if we have a power outage?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
They're totally neutral on where the supply comes from, and they won't give you any less service than they would otherwise.
Can you talk a little bit more about when you say supply? Because when I first got this letter, I was thinking it might have something to do with the windmills that are here, and I think, people. I think I read that it has nothing to do with the energy that's being created, locally here.
Good question. We deal with a company for our renewable energy that was known as Mass Consumers Energy Alliance, which recently changed their name to Green Energy Consumers Alliance. Okay, they basically were involved with your wind turbines here in Gloucester to buy the renewable energy certificates. Okay, since we deal with them, what's going to happen is that much of the renewable energy involved in this program are going to come from those wind turbines. So, you're generating that right here in Gloucester, and it'll be coming through the system for your residents.
Okay.
Great.
So as it turns out, if you do nothing, I mean not if you do nothing. If you stayed with National Grid, you're going to pay 13.5 cents this winter for electricity generation. Is that right?
As of November 1st, National Grid is going to raise its price for the basic service customer to $13.718 per kilowatt hour. Now, if you compare that apples to apples to the Gloucester aggregation, the Gloucester aggregation will be paying $10.98 per kilowatt hour.
wow, that's huge. That's
Okay.
30. That's like 30.
Okay, so it's a big difference. The standard product for the Gloucester Community Electricity Aggregation, which has 5% more green energy, okay, is going to be at $11.085. Now, 5% more green energy doesn't sound like a lot, but no matter where you are in Massachusetts, you get this year, because of what's known as the renewable portfolio requirement, you get 13% renewable energy in the fuel mix of any electricity that you get in Massachusetts. So that 5% extra on top of the 13% is actually almost 40% increase, which is very important. Certainly for those communities that are interested in more renewable energy, that's a big jump. And what we found with this model of the extra 5% is that we not only have an economic basis for it, which people want, but there's an environmental basis. So it's a win-win on both of those situations.
But with the extra green, it's costing the consumer more for electricity.
Well, it's still costing the consumer less than
If you
the
stay-
national grid rate,
right?
but it's costing a little more for that extra 5%, but you're still 2 cents, more than 2 cents under the national grid
So
rate.
you're paying a little extra to feel good about it.
Right. Right.
If that's your big thing.
And essentially, you have the two other options where you can come down to no additional green for that 10.98, or for those people who really want to go all green, they can go up to the 100% Gloucester Premium Local Green, which is $13.08, which is still under the national grid rate.
There you go.
And so,
Yeah, I would just think that as you're becoming more green, that it would be less expensive. That's what threw me off is, if I'm using renewable energy, there should be more of an incentive
that's a fair point, yeah.
to pay less.
Unfortunately, that's not the case.
No. Yeah.
Okay, not yet anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think
Not
they'd be
yet.
going in that direction.
Yeah, it is going in that direction.
Right,
Okay, but certainly not
Not
yet.
there
We're
yet.
still in a subsidized situation here in Massachusetts with renewable energy.
Okay.
So it is a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
But but in a case like this, it really is an advantage to help a community
Yeah.
put more green into the
Absolutely.
mix.
Yeah,
Here's a question that impacts me. Because it's
All
all,
about you.
it's
Yeah,
all
about
about
you.
Let's go
It's all
directly to
about
that.
me. Well, I have solar panels, and I get solar renewable energy credits.
Yes.
So, my question is, if I have a solar and I get solar renewable energy credits, if I go with this, am I impacted in any way? Are my checks not going to come anymore?
No, not at all. Your arrangement, your agreement with National Grid concerning net metering is a totally independent situation than the aggregation. It won't impact you at all.
Okay. All right, everybody heard that, right?
you heard that.
That's a huge part of my solar deal is getting these checks. That makes it all.
You can leave now, John.
That's the most important question.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
morning.
I'll tell you, it impacts me personally. Yes. So to explain, so a lot of people on the rabble rousers that really didn't understand, they were kind of frustrated. They saying, "Why do I have to opt out rather than opt in?" Maybe you could speak to that.
It's a very important point, and it's the question we get. It's the top question we get all the time. The simple answer to that question is that's the way the law is written. Okay, but there's a real business case for the way that is. Okay, and let me explain that briefly. We are again the national leader. Okay, in municipal aggregation or community electricity aggregation, as it's called here in Massachusetts. And essentially all of the programs we have are opt-out programs. Okay, when the law was put into effect back in 1997, the rationale between putting an opt-out in there is because that's the best way to build the largest buying group. Okay,
Of course.
and don't forget what we're doing here. We're trying to build the largest buying group because this is a
save money.
bulk
To
buying
maximize the-
program.
yeah. Makes
Every
sense.
Everybody understands the concept of cheaper by the dozen. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to get the largest load together so we get the best price.
Just like a health insurance program for big companies pay next to nothing for health insurance.
Right.
If you go, you're a small business all on your own. You're paying triple what a
Right,
big business
right.
gets to do because they have buying power.
Right.
And the important part of that opt-out is that, again, with our programs here in Massachusetts, we get about a 5 to 7% opt-out. Okay, so we can be assured that 93% of the eligible customers are going to be in the program. Okay, now when we go out to bid, the suppliers that want to supply this have that certainty of knowing, well, I know what the load is, and I know what the shape of the load is. I'm going to get 93% of that load, so I know what I'm bidding on. If you go the opposite way and say, well, let's opt in, you know what happens. People get things in the mail. They say, oh, this is good, but, I'm going to put this aside from now, and if I have to act on it, I'll do it next month, or this or that. Or that. The suppliers that are bidding on the contract don't know whether they're going to get 93% or 80% or 50% or 20%. So now what you're doing, you're introducing a large amount of uncertainty into that bid. Okay? You introduce uncertainty, you introduce risk, and what's going to happen?
Prices
If
and-
those companies bid, they're going to put a risk premium in there. Okay? If they decide to bid at all, because some of them won't even bid, they say, hey, I don't know what I'm bidding on. That's the reason why it's an opt-in. the primary reason, because the business case for it works and reduces that price because there's certainty in that situation.
But it wasn't a city decision to do that.
Oh, no,
that's
not
the
at all.
law.
No, the law is written that
So-
way.
so that's an important
and there's-
distinction, I think.
As I say, it's a very important feature of the
Reason.
law that it's in there.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, there you go. So another question: how will I know that participating in the community electricity aggregation program? How do I know that's going to benefit me?
Well, certainly the letter that went out to everyone explains very clearly and has a grid right on that front page of what the difference in prices are. So you can figure for yourself, you look at that and you say, yeah, if I'm in the program, I'm going to save money. If I stay with National Grid, which there's no real reason to because they don't make money on the supply, I'm going to pay more. Okay, so it's very clear
simple. Very
that they're
simple.
going to benefit.
Yeah. If a participant wants to leave this program, is there any penalty or termination fee?
In our programs, there's absolutely no penalty or termination fee to leave. If at some point in time you decide that you don't want to be in the program, you call the supplier, you let them know what the account number is, and on the next meter read date, you go either back to National Grid, or if you've chosen someone else, you've chosen another supplier, you go back to that.
One other question: if you are, I know my mom was on a program where her bill did not fluctuate. It was like it was kind of
pricing.
Oh,
kind of a
Fixed.
fixed, not the price of what she paid, but they figured out what she used
They
for
had
electricity.
budget billing.
Budget billing.
Okay.
How does budget billing get affected if you start at a period where they've paid less for a bunch of months, and then do they want to come back and reclaim that money?
Essentially, budget billing or any discounts that National Grid is giving you, okay, stay in place. Okay,
That's an
they
important
stay in
point,
place.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yeah,
So
and there's no effect on those programs at all.
So it's clear that there's a cost savings to everyone for going into this program. What traditionally or historically would have been the rate increases for this type of service or energy? Because I think some people are probably concerned that while it's saving me money now, who's to say a year from now, like National Grid, you're not going to make an announcement that I'm paying more than what I would be paying through National Grid.
When we conducted the competitive bid on October 2nd, we had 3 bidders, and we had bids from anywhere from 12, 18, 24, 30, and 36 months. So there was a matrix there, and there were prices in each one of those categories of those 3 bidders. The best price was the 3-year contract with Direct Energy, and that's the one that was chosen by the city. Okay, for that 3-year contract, that price will stay the same. Okay, and again, within the program, if somebody goes to the 5% green, at some point during the 3 years, they can go to 100% green, or they can come back to basic. Okay, they can change in those options. Also, as you know, National Grid's prices change every 6 months. Okay, their price right now is $10.87 per kilowatt hour. That's their quote summer rate, and their winter rate is the $13.718. Okay, and it goes up and down like this. We try to do price stability throughout the 3-year term. There could be times during that 3-year term where the National Grid rate will be slightly lower than our rate, but over the course of those 3 years, you're going to save money on the contract.
Okay, interesting. And so what happens after the 3 years? Is that
After the 3 years, okay, we go out for another competitive bid.
competitive bid?
Okay, and basically, people get that letter that explains the program for the next period of time, whatever the city might pick, and they can pick a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year contract, whatever happens to be best at that point in the market.
Interesting.
There you go. Well,
Good
thank
for
you so
us.
much. You gave me some information. I have it on my thumb drive. I'm going to upload it, and we'll put in the show notes a link to that post, which has bunch of bullet points and all this information, so people can read it for themselves.
Right. I basically, you know, the letter that we send to people, okay, is it has to be approved by the Department of Public Utilities. So it's a 2-page letter, and some of it can be confusing. I have basically queued it down to a 1-page, which is very clear, that gives people, you know, all of the features and what they need to do.
That's great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joey.
And I think this is a huge service to Gloucester on coming in here on a Sunday and explaining these points, because I know a lot of people were freaking out. And just because they didn't follow up. There was they provided
All
the
links.
website, the link, the telephone numbers. You can talk to people. If after this you listen to this podcast, if you're still unsure, there will be provided telephone numbers. You can talk to a human, and in a website that you can go and do more research.
Sessions set up as
Yeah,
well.
and we do a lot of outreach, but unfortunately, during the first 2 weeks of the start of any program, there's always some confusion.
Yep.
There's always misinformation going around,
Yep.
and sometimes it upsets people. But essentially, after the first 2 weeks or so, everything will calm down. People will understand this more, and they'll understand it's an advantage to be in it.
I saw a lot of the city councilors where they were getting questions, and some of these people were upset, and they were saying, "You're going to save money, so just relax." And and they were doing a good job as well, getting the word out. Again, John, thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you,
Joe.
Joey, and thank you all. For
Sure.
being
Thank
here.
you.
All right, that guy, John, he drove 2.5 hours to speak with us
Well, that's
today.
incredible.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
very
did clear
thankful.
things up, I think.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, it did.
yeah.
For me.
He couldn't have said it more clearly and in more simplistic terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I could understand it. but I'm
Yeah,
not-
me too.
I'm not that great at understanding energy.
A number of things.
Right, energy stuff.
Well, he didn't mansplain it to you either, so I was happy about
Oh,
that.
that's good.
He's not going to get called out for mansplaining it to you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yesterday, in part of the continual quest to kill me, Chris McCarthy's sole mission in life to degrade my liver and
Just doing what I've been instructed to do.
and put me into an early grave.
Oh, no.
Did his best yesterday. We went into town with the DeGiorgios and we had tickets for Game 6, Red Sox, Houston.
Oh.
The series
but-
ended in
Oh, it
5.
ended.
Yeah.
Oh.
We had so
So what happened? I
you
know
get
this-
your money back.
You get your money back.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
credit it to your account. You got to wait like 7 or 8 days, but you get your money back, and no fees get taken out or anything like
What kind of tickets, Joe?
that. He's busting my balls. So there were standing room only seats in a pavilion club, which is they're fantastic seats. They're better than the green monster seats that people pay a fortune
But
for.
by definition, aren't they standing room only?
Yes. And
Okay.
that's not how
Oh,
it
so they're not
communicated.
standing room only seats. I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Thank
why.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
Because that's not how it was sold to me
Oh,
when Joe
okay.
came up with this great idea to
I
go to the
see it.
Red Sox.
Right.
He's like, I got seats for, I forget how much they were for 2, and I said, I'm in. And it wasn't
Yeah.
until the Red Sox didn't make it
He's so fucking
that
ungrateful.
I don't know
He's so
and didn't
ungrateful.
realize that they were standing room and I'd have to sit there for 4 freaking hours to watch a baseball game.
No one in the ALCS American League Championship Series. No one sits. You're standing up at the game
Joe,
anyway.
Joe, I typically, when I go to a Red Sox game, sit in a luxury box.
Oh.
And I sit most of the time. So, I'm just saying.
I'm gonna let you buy the tickets next time.
Yeah, please do.
And you can wait
Please
for the money
do.
to come back in your account. How's that sound? So anyway, we went in. We had
Yeah.
a ridiculous time yesterday. We always do, but we brilliant move. And Chris brought this topic up today. You really taking the train is such a no-brainer to go into town.
Oh, I love taking.
It's such a no-brainer. We had a blast on the train, and everything. The MBTA. See, I guess maybe I'm showing like how much of a homebody, an old person I've become, that I don't go into the city that much anymore. But like in the past couple of years, the parking in the West Gloucester station.
Yeah.
You have an app for that now.
Yes.
There's no cash
Makes a
change
huge
in hand.
difference.
Change in hand. You download the app. You pay for the parking for the day.
Yeah.
You get on the train. They're not punching any paper
Right.
tickets.
Use your app again.
They have an app, or the guy. You hand them what you can hand the guy the money, and he has a little tiny printer on his waist that he has his cell phone. He punches it in, and a little receipt comes out, and he hands you the receipt.
Yeah.
It was $10 for
Round trip.
a round trip all weekend pass.
Oh, weekend pass.
$10.
Yeah, they had a special.
That's
Oh,
outrageous.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right? So why would you? Because if you went into park into city, that's for the whole day. That's gonna be like
40 easy.
40 easy,
40 plus.
easily, right?
And the parking at the station's only $2,
Yeah,
which
no brainer.
is
Especially since it's like probably a half a mile from your house.
Yeah, I was gonna walk, but
You
I,
could
didn't-
have.
I figured the walk when we got home wouldn't be as enjoyable.
The coyotes would have got you too,
Coyotes, yeah.
or the deer.
Or the
Would
deer.
have got headbutted by a deer crossing the street.
Or moose.
I would have felt. A
Porcupine.
moose.
Porcupines. There's porcupines now.
Porcupine.
So yeah, you could step on a porcupine and be dead, and you die.
Oh my God.
That would happen. So anyway, we went into town and we went to first. We started out at Legal Harborside, which overlooks basically the place both of us worked on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The State Fish Pier on one side, which I spent ungodly amount of time delivering fish to,
Delivering,
like
yeah.
in the 90s and early 2000s, and then Chris worked in the World Trade Center for 4 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we were both like less than 100 yards
Yeah.
away from each other for probably a decade,
Yeah.
and didn't even realize, and went to high school together and didn't even
Oh,
realize we
wow.
were there at the same times. Because we could have, grabbed a drink or something together.
So it's the
Lunch
fates
together,
that brought you back together again
It is.
after.
Well, no, it's really all about him murdering me with booze. That's what it is.
It's a long-standing goal.
That's what it is. It's a lot. He had to go a long way around to get to this place where he's gonna murder me with booze.
Murder me with booze. That could be a good movie.
Yeah.
Murder me with booze.
So we went to these rooftop decks. Bar.
It's a gorgeous day yesterday.
Oh, we went from Legals. We went to a Mexican restaurant, and then we went to the Envoy Hotel on Northern Ave.
Yeah.
Roof deck. It was gorgeous. And we owned that place.
Yeah. We were the first ones there.
we were the first
in
ones-
line.
First people
When
there.
it's 2 in the afternoon.
4 o'clock. No, it was 4.
Open
Up
it
at
open
four.
at 4.
Oh,
But then
okay.
it quickly filled in with like college students, and they were all sitting down there with like their faces in their phones, and we were calling them out. And all of a sudden, we had a party around us.
Yeah.
It was just like all these college kids and us, and we're playing drinking games with them. And
Joe, I'm sorry. Let the record show Joe was playing drinking games with them.
you were doing inappropriate things with the mint leaves. I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm not even gonna. I'm not. I swear on this podcast. I say inappropriate things on this podcast. I will not say what he was doing with the mint leaves for fear of going over the line. I don't want to go
Somebody
over the
having a
line.
mojito, where were the mint leaves?
No.
Oh, Joe ordered. Good question, Pat. Because Joe ordered this foofy drink, and he convinced me to order the same one, and it came with this bushel of mint leaves on the top.
Okay. All right.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
And then we switched to beer after that because I can't drink those foofy drinks that he drinks.
I did.
Freaking umbrellas and fruit. I mean, there was enough fruit in there.
Did not.
Jesus.
It's all him, the murderer. The murderer. I'm telling you, I was going to leave a note. I was going to leave a note behind before I left the house yesterday, in case I
To the
died.
kids.
There was a
In
To the
case I
kids.
they
died,
didn't get back.
is this guy, Chris McCarthy, class of 1985, Bishop Fenwick High School.
Wet ceiling tile. Is it all the money?
So anyway, Chris and I, my buddy Chris is one of our. He's a kind of a fisherman. Hangs out. He's a wharf rat. Would you characterize yourself as a wharf rat?
Yeah.
Like, he has a little skiff. He goes hanging around with drives around the harbor. He just loves being down the docks, and he loves the fishermen and stuff like that. So he turned me on to this. We've been going to Mom's Kitchen. If you remember, They came through with us during the fiesta with the Modiga steak sandwiches. They weren't making them yet, and they made them special for us, right?
That was amazing.
Well,
And
this
Chris went
week-
down and got him.
Chris went down and got them. Well, this week we went for breakfast one day, right? Breakfast? No, lunch. Lunch.
It was lunch one day.
Lunch one day, and then we went, and then I went the following day because it was so good. I got the chicken pot pie the first day. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what I want to know about. I love
It was
chicken
so
pot pie.
perfect because it was
Yeah.
a cold day.
They do chicken pot pies on Tuesdays
Oh, really?
at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Amazing.
Good to know.
Amazing.
Good to
So
know.
then Chris, while Chris was eating with me, we were eating, we were having lunch together, and he says, "You have to see the haddock sandwich. The haddock sandwich. The bun is unbelievable, but it sticks out so far out of the sides. It's like a whole. It's like a haddock dinner on top of a haddock sandwich.
Oh my goodness.
So I had it in my head. I couldn't stop thinking about this haddock sandwich. I'm a big haddock sandwich guy, right? And so I went the next day, which was Thursday, and I didn't realize that this is only served on Fridays.
Special
So
days
he
for
went on
special
Friday and he brought them back to the wharf for us, and they were
Very nice.
amazing.
Amazing. Wow. Nice.
So big, huge shout out to Mom's Kitchen
And to Chris for
and to Chris for tuning me up. Yeah, that was
Mom's Kitchen is the only breakfast place that cooks good dinners, homemade.
right.
Yeah.
It's breakfast and excellent dinners
Right.
too. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, 'cause
dinners, they're open.
No.
all
He
day?
means dinners, but dinners for lunch.
Yeah.
Dinners
Oh,
for
my
lunch.
bad. Okay. Yeah, because I
So
didn't
they have certain things
I
on
didn't
certain days that they don't have on other days.
Right.
special.
Every day there's cabbage rolls one day, isn't there?
Yes, that's on
Really?
Wednesdays. Cabbage rolls on Wednesdays.
And everybody raves about them.
So
But you
have it
probably
memorized.
fart a lot after you eat those.
Yeah.
Chris has the menu memorized.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in. He's
I
in.
say that at least every day.
Give us a rundown of all the specials.
Go ahead.
Weekly
Stop
specials.
Monday to Friday. See if
Monday.
there's a test. Let's see if he can do it.
Okay. Mom's Kitchen does not do lunch on Sundays and Mondays.
Yeah, Joe.
Okay.
Tuesday is the
Chicken pot pie.
chicken pot pie.
Pie.
Wednesday, cabbage rolls. Thursday, turkey dinner. Friday, haddock.
Had it.
All right.
Okay.
And they also on Friday they do meatloaf.
Really?
Meatloaf dinner.
Oh, my daughter loves me.
Wow.
So
My
if you-
husband
if you have
loves
to-
meatloaf.
So if
I'm
you don't
impressed.
want the
He
haddock
rattled that
sandwich,
right
you
out.
go for the meatloaf.
And are
Yeah.
they open for Saturday and dinner too?
Saturdays, if they're not really busy, Dave will make something special.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But it's more of a
Right.
breakfast
It's more
place.
of a
You know,
breakfast
people
place.
coming out of church and stuff.
But they're open for breakfast all the time too, though, right?
Yeah, breakfast is every day. When they're open, they're doing breakfast too.
Okay.
What has impressed me most about Gloucester and a lot of these restaurants, like Mom's, like Halibut Point, you go into these places and the Stone's Kitchen, the size of the actual kitchen
It's
that
teeny.
they're pumping out
Right.
this outstanding food.
Oh,
Is-
I never looked in the kitchen.
Oh my God,
Oh,
it's
it's
absolutely
teeny,
crazy.
Oh yeah,
to see
little galley kitchens, and they're pumping
Galley
out like
kitchen.
incredible meals,
incredible food,
homemade
incredible
scratch
food.
kitchens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean they're smaller than my kitchen at home. And
Stone's Pub.
Well, you can kind
Mom's
of see it right
Kitchen.
in
My
Halibut
son's
Point. It's right there in front of you, basically.
Yeah,
Brody,
yeah, when you walk
It's
in.
the
Brody's,
same
yeah,
thing.
Brody's is probably smaller than all of them. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Brody's steak tips
very
famous.
impressive.
Yeah,
Very impressive.
fantastic. So I'm exhausted. I'm not. I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover from watching the baseball games. The
What?
midnight on Friday it was
They were very stressful.
midnight ending. I had to be at work at Thursday night. Midnight ending. I had to be at work at 2:30 in the morning, and
Did you stay up?
I stayed up. And I'm still
Well,
paid.
let the record show that he had a 5-hour nap beforehand too. You know, he doesn't tell his listeners, the nap time that he builds into those days.
It's your friend.
Right for the heart.
Might as well just give him a knife, hand him a knife so he can stab me in the face. He just stabbed me in the face. But so the World Series scheduled. It's the Dodgers won yesterday, best of 7 series against the Milwaukee Brewers, and the World Series is going to start on Tuesday. Now I was curious what the times the games were going to be. Every game is an 8:09 start.
PM.
PM.
Obviously.
Even the Saturday Sunday game
So
is
Eastern
8:09 p.m. What?
So it'll be
Eastern time.
Okay.
Eastern time.
So we are. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to be selective because I couldn't physically do that.
Did you reach out to MLB and
Yeah,
express your concern?
explain their, yeah.
No, but I did post it on
I'm sure
Facebook,
they'd
and
be
there's a
responsive.
huge, an incredible number of people responding. And my guess
Why
is,
is that? Why?
so
it's
my
like
guess
TV.
is,
It's
it's
gotta
all
be
about
TV.
TV.
and ratings and prime
and-
time. And
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
But so with baseball, right? I think that like, football fans will watch any two football teams play, not just your home team, like the Patriots or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
I think baseball, once your team is out of it, like
don't-
I never watch a World Series if the
Right.
Red Sox aren't in it. Once my team is out, I'm not watching it. So this college football and professional football are enormous. So I think that's why they put them at 8:00 on the weekends.
Yeah.
That's my theory anyway. I don't really have good knowledge
Well,
of
you're
it.
going to have to take some naps.
So what's your prediction?
You're going to have to.
What's your prediction?
Oh, the Red Sox. So last year the Dodgers.
Going for the kill.
Yeah.
So last year the Dodgers and the Astros played in the World Series. This year the Dodgers made it back, and the Red Sox beat the Astros. So I'm saying, and the Astros beat the Dodgers last year. So I'm saying that the Red Sox should
Have a good chance.
have
In
a
how
good
many?
chance. I'm gonna say they're gonna win it in either five or 6 games.
Okay. Chris, do you have a prediction?
It's gonna go 8 games.
Because it'll be tied,
Because
right?
Because there's gonna be a rain out one day.
Oh, gotcha.
That's my
Gotcha.
prediction.
Eight's good.
Actually, and there could be a snow out too. There could be some snow at some
Ooh.
point.
It could be.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Chris,
No,
do you have a prediction?
Chris hates sports.
Okay, didn't know.
Chris runs out of the office when sports comes on.
I did not know. Sorry.
like sports.
I didn't mean to put you under pressure.
He's a foodie. He's a
Yeah, I was
foodie.
going to say, talk about chicken pot pies. No, I'm more in your camp.
I'll
So-
tune in when you talk about food.
Okay, all right. Take your nap.
What is Jimmy saying?
I don't know, because I haven't seen him since the Los Angeles one.
You don't talk to your husband?
So, not since the game ended last night or yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, no, we haven't talked
Let's get him
about
on the phone.
Interesting.
We could do
Let's
that.
get
We
him
should
on
have
the
dialed
phone.
him in.
We need his
See
prediction.
if call him up. See if we
Call
can
him
get
up.
him.
I'm gonna do
See if
that.
we can get him.
Whatever he
Hopefully,
says.
there's no interference. Kim, what are you saying?
I have no idea how to predict these things, so
Okay.
I'll just say randomly. I'll just say it goes to all 7.
All right, there you go.
Nice.
That's
see
just
if-
random.
we'll s-
That's totally like
We'll see if we
random.
can.
That's
because
it. Put money
that's
on
because
it.
you didn't. You said 8 and because you said 5, so I'll say 7.
Book it.
I was
The
with my
price
money
is
on
right.
it was not the Red Sox.
Oh, not the Red Sox. Don't say that. That jinxed them. You better not. We better not on wood.
We thought we were going to have Michael DeCosta and the guy from Maritime Heritage,
Yeah.
but he couldn't make it. But I wanted to share this post that he did on Cape Ann Community. Let's see if Jimmy. We got Jimmy. That's okay.
Yes, dear.
Hey!
You're live.
All right, we got you. We got you on specifically to ask you this question. Give us your World Series. You're live on the podcast right now, Jimmy. So, what is your prediction
okay.
for the World Series? How many games and who's going to win it?
Okay, Boston in 4.
In 4,
Whoa.
a sweep. He's predicting a sweep.
Wow.
Wow,
He said that quickly, too.
Yeah.
he's conviction. I
He's
like
put
it.
a lot of analysis into this.
Well, he's a baseball guy. He
Oh.
works for the Mets, so
Yeah.
No, I'd say Boston in 4 because Cora for president, he is so smart using his bullpen and his starters. He's going to put it all together, and he's sitting down. He's had a couple of days they've had rest, so I really think that's going to really mess up the Dodgers. Preet won't be hitting home runs like that, like he did last night.
yep.
Well, but Cora just got arrested this morning. Does that impact your decision at all? He's probably not going to be available in the dugout.
Okay, well, I don't know if he got arrested because it might have been with the crew that I saw on Facebook Live last night.
He was
There
with
were
us.
some moves there was a couple of moves I saw some people that should have been arrested.
That was all Joe.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay, fine.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, thanks for
All
calling
right.
in, Jimmy.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
calling in live.
Yes, thank you, and good morning, Gloucester.
Is this a first? Is this a first?
This is a first call in. First call
First
in.
call
ever.
in.
Congratulations, Jimmy. You're our first call. We're gonna do this more often.
Groundbreaking. This is groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is hardcore. This is big time technology up there.
yeah. You should.
You got to get a
technology
picture of me, Kim.
right
You got to
here,
get a picture of me.
Yeah.
Show the listeners the high technology.
Big time technology
right
right here.
now.
Well, I'm just hoping that you guys actually
Smile,
have the
Jim.
mics on and everything else, because we've had some really bad times with that lately. So this is probably not even being filmed. I mean, taped.
Are you smiling? Kim's taking a picture.
All right.
Good to talk to you guys.
All
Good
right,
to
we'll
talk
see
to
you,
you.
pal.
Thanks for waking up
Bye.
for us this early. We know it's early out there in the western New York.
Well, it's snowing here now.
Snowing.
Oh.
See, there's your prediction. There's your
My
prediction for
prediction,
snow in the World
Yeah.
Series.
Bye, honey.
It's coming.
All right.
Oh no.
So Jimmy, Michael DeCosta from the director at the Heritage Center, he wrote a nice piece about explaining who was responsible for the schooner float. Remember how we were talking about the schooner float?
Oh, yeah.
And we're giving a lot of credit to the Beauport Hospitality Group, Jim
Right.
Davis and Sherry Zizak for donating money to get the floats done.
Yep.
Well, I want to make sure, because we said, we gave them a huge amount of credit. There's a lot of other people
There's a
involved.
lot of other people.
So we're going to talk about. Well, I'm just going to go. I'm going to just read from the thing that he wrote. So many people were involved in this effort, but a few need special mention. First is Jeffrey Rishon, who steered the building of the docks from start to finish. Peter Bent, who was involved in every step from raising funds to launch to finding a place to store them. The mayor and city for allowing them to be prominently placed at I-4C2. Beauport Hospitality Group and the Dusky Foundation, who saw and funded the vision. And many thanks go out to the members of Gloucester Schooner Festival Committee for their job getting together the event for the year. As these docks get stored for the winter, Maritime Gloucester can't wait to re-engage the whole community and bring them back next summer. The plans and the fundraising to make these docks longer and give more people the chance to get aboard starts now. Thanks for a great festival. See you next year.
Great.
So, Michael, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I always like to have,
Yeah.
a lot of times, great things happen in our city,
And
and
we
there's
don't
people
know.
behind the
Right,
scenes
we
that
don't
don't get the credit, and I think it's huge to give them the credit, because we want to encourage them to do more.
More, right.
So there's that.
And it was awesome. I mean, you could it had at one point it had 5 or 6 schooners docked on it. So which they would have been
Scattered all over the
scattered
city.
all over the
Yep.
city, and this way you could just go down there and take tours of any of them. I mean, it was incredible, and it was such a central location. I mean, it just adds to like the foot traffic going. Like if you're on foot, if you want to tour Gloucester for the day. I mean, it was really incredible.
Yeah.
Really,
Well,
really incredible.
thank you so much for that post. Grand Banks Building Products, located in Gloucester, Mass, is currently hiring a full-time experienced kitchen designer. Learn more about it at Grand Banks. I get a link in the show notes to the post that they wrote on Cape Ann Home. Kim, you had a book release, Port Bliss by Faye Passanisi.
Right. Yeah, it was a wonderful event yesterday. It was held at her home, and it's the story. She comes from a fishing family, and so they had there are many stories interwoven in this. It's many stories together, but it's really about this one woman's journey, and it's really more about the journey than what actually happens. But it's a very inspirational story, and she had spoken to most of the fishing captains around here, so it was I got a fabulous picture of all the fishing captains together in the room, and
Nice.
it was really
And that post
awesome.
you're gonna have that post up tonight.
Yeah, tonight. So at
So we'll
6.
put, so the show notes will reflect. You
Yeah.
can click on to see the photo of her with the
Yes.
fishing captains.
Yeah, and then there was also, she made a beautiful spread. It was a tremendous turnout for a book signing. There must have been 100 people
Wow.
there
Oh, wow.
in her home. It was beautiful, wonderful meal set out for everybody. I think Marianne Paquette and Tina Greeley, they were very
Tina
helpful. Tina
Greel.
Greel, right. Were very helpful and instrumental. Another woman, Chris Sherman, they were all very involved in helping her pull this off.
Russell Sherman's wife. Yeah.
So she gave a very heartfelt talk about what inspired her to write the book, and it was just a wonderful event.
There you go.
Very,
Well,
very
looking
sweet.
forward to that. Maybe
Yeah.
you can have her come in.
Oh, she would love
Did you
to.
think to ask her to come in on the podcast, or does that slip your mind when you were there?
it was a little overwhelming yesterday. She was a little overwhelmed. I did think about it, but she was a little overwhelmed.
But you didn't, though, did you?
No, it wasn't the right time because there were 100
we'll get her in here.
There
We'll
were
get her in
100
here.
of her closest friends there, all wishing her well, all wishing for the book to be a
And you were
big
just there to
success.
help her with the press, and
Yeah,
that's
so-
fine. That's
so-
nice. Maybe another time.
So do we know where it's available?
I don't know where it's
Okay.
available.
Okay, we'll have to find that out.
We'll find
Yeah.
that out.
So you did a wonderful post about this. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but I'm going to say Sylvania W. Beale at Maritime Gloucester.
Right, it's the new girl on the block, and she's a beautiful schooner, small,
Big.
yeah, bigger than the Ardell, smaller than the Lannon.
That's smaller than the Land?
Yeah, I think it was smaller than the
Oh, okay.
Lannon. Yeah.
The pictures were deceiving then.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right.
You could. I'm not used to seeing schooners where you can see sunlight through all the planks because it's really it's really not in super great condition.
Oh, I see it now.
But they're rather than just using the plans and building a whole new fresh boat. Harold Burnham was quoted as saying that he wanted to. He wants all the history, all the beautiful ephemeral history that comes with an older boat like this. So,
Do you know what year it was built?
1911, I believe.
1911. It's
Or
funny.
maybe it's 1907. For some,
Yeah, okay.
It's in the post. I believe
Yeah.
it's in the post.
Yeah, I see it. It's
Yeah.
amazing to me.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is beautiful.
It's a beautiful shape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really clean lines.
Yeah.
Really a beautiful boat.
What are you-
And Harold
what are you
Burnham
looking at
owns
there?
it.
Yeah.
Harold Burnham. Harold
Not the
Burnham.
mic,
What
is
were
it?
you looking at over there?
He's looking
I'm
at
looking
the
at the
picture.
picture of the boat.
Oh, okay.
I pulled up the post so I
Oh,
could see
no,
what
your
we're
description,
talking
I didn't know you were describing a boat.
about. The nice lines of it.
Yeah, nice lines, nice curves.
Nice.
I mean, I don't know.
We thought it was his mic, maybe. We didn't know. We
That's
weren't
where your
sure.
mind. That's where his mind goes. The pervert. You don't. Yeah.
You just got to be more specific. Again, this is not a video or TV show. It's people listening. You got to be more descriptive.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, 303 podcasts in. I'm just figuring this out. I'm just trying to get some. Thank you for the constructive criticism. Such a prick.
Hey.
What did I say? So tell me about your BBC thing. How'd that go?
Oh, that was so much fun to watch.
You saw it?
Oh,
Yes, I did.
I
Well, I
didn't
saw
know
the local. I didn't realize. I saw the local episodes,
Right,
the,
and
the ones that were aired locally,
right.
and then I was in New York, so they were all
Oh, wow.
all
Yeah.
over. And then I watched her BBC episode, so Kim's BBC episode. So yeah,
yeah.
I loved it.
Were you happy with it?
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was very, very educational. It was great meeting the producers and the cameramen, and I think it really helps get more information out about the monarchs, and that's the most important thing. So, a lot of people we get a lot of tourists here that come from Europe that have read have seen my butterfly postings on Good Morning Gloucester. And they're looking for monarchs, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I think it's just a really good thing they're such a bellwether species of the health of the environment. And I think the more people know about, it's like a gateway species in a way, because it helps people.
Can you give us an update on you had the fundraising thing? The
Right.
was it
Yeah,
GoFundMe?
no, it wasn't a
Or is
GoFundMe.
it-
It was through the Filmmakers
The
Collaborative.
Filmmakers Collaborative, and you raised a good amount of money.
Right.
Where is it right now?
So it's close to $38,000, and I actually haven't spent a penny of it because I'm still in the stage where before I give it to an editor, I have been adding for the last couple months. I've been adding all the clips from the last couple years. That so I'm at the point where I'm just at the verge of being able to start spending the money and
Yeah.
bring it to an outside editor. So I don't want to give him the film and then say, oh, we need this or that, because I'm trying to save as much money as possible on the editing, so I'm trying to get as much done of that as possible.
Ahead of time, right.
Ahead of time, because I don't want to be switching out clips when they've already
Right,
queued things up and stuff like that.
Save
so,
some money, make it
yeah,
go to the
yeah,
best possible.
I want the
route,
money to go to, I
making
really
it the
want,
most beautiful film that it could be.
Yes, that's just, and because of people's generosity, I've been able to make the film that I always dreamed of. So, and that wasn't possible before the fundraiser. So,
Wouldn't have been possible without Good Morning Gloucester and the outlet, right?
yeah, no.
I mean, I know you have a
yeah.
following,
Yeah,
right?
no.
But like you
No, it 100% would not have been possible.
right. I mean,
without Good Morning
people would have
Gloucester.
you would have had a much smaller subset of
Yes.
people that, and now through being able to do this has allowed you to create this incredible thing, which I'm
Yeah.
really happy about.
Yeah,
that it's giving you this workshop. I encourage all of our contributors to, whatever they're passionate about, whether like Donna selling her prints,
Yeah.
or you don't really do anything. But, you can have a little.
A little side business or something.
Yeah.
I do family history.
Yeah, well there you go. You
Help
should.
people with their research.
should-
Well,
advertise-
why don't you do a post and say if you're curious, I can
Right.
Well,
good idea.
Because
I
people
encourage
don't
all of our
generally react
all of
very
our,
well to those kinds of posts when I tiptoe into that territory. They aren't very popular usually, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
kind of stay away from it.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter if they're not popular.
Listen, there's
No,
people
I
that
know,
can't
yeah, I
stand
know,
her.
I know,
There
but-
are people that
Right.
rant and rave about the dog things and the beach.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I know.
polarizing,
It's
completely
not gonna
polarizing. But
be-
there's people that absolutely adore her and love her for it. You have to do what's passionate, what makes you tick. People, a lot of people
you'd be
appreciate
seeing a whole
that.
lot more
Yeah, well,
articles about the old days. If
It's interesting. I find it very.
I find
interesting.
very
it-
interesting
I find
too.
it
When
very
you dig up
interesting.
those in the archives and you post
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things, those are some of my favorite
oh,
posts.
I got a good one coming up soon.
Oh,
there you
Wait.
go.
Yeah, but I do want to touch on some. I want to touch more on something that you said about Good Morning Gloucester. It truly is because of the a wonderful readership on Good Morning Gloucester.
All right. So anyway, this is the end of the GloucesterCast 303.
Wow, that's a lucky number. Isn't it?
Huge thanks to John P. O'Rourke from Good Energy for coming in and clearing up any kind of questions. If you don't listen to, if you have any,
That was
if you
it.
had any questions about this program before,
Right.
and you don't listen to this, I'm going to call you out on Facebook as an ignorant person. Right?
Or just give
Was that
them
fair?
Just give them the link.
I'll give them a link. There you go.
Done.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Kim, thanks for coming. Pat
you,
and Chris,
Johnny.
as always, thanks for putting me in an early grave and all the damage you're doing to me.
Sorry, Joe.
No, you're not. Have a good day, everybody.